Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Sauce. I guess I'll start with the good news. Good news is I had a great college football week, plus 2.98 units or something like that. Very good week in college football. And some more good news, Prop Beaver swept the board. I think he went like 7-0 or 6-0 or something. Made a killing. So that's the good news. Bad news is I just got rocked yesterday on NFL Sunday, man. Wow. Even more frustrating than just losing bets. I was losing bets on the public side, which is just the worst feeling. I mean, you feel like such a sucker. But hey, I'm shaking it off. I mean, you're never going to last in this business if a losing day is just going to crush you. Frustrating, but we're moving on to Monday Night Football. We got a decent game here. San Francisco 49ers on the road in Minnesota to play the Vikings. Line is at 6.5 right now, but you can get 7s. Basically, it's been back and forth between 6.5 and 7 all week. Total is currently sitting at 43 or 43.5, depending on your sports book. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Sauce. The Sauce. Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
So as expected, the public's all over the 49ers here. And like I said, the number's just been bouncing back and forth between 6.5 and 7. Seems like the odds makers don't want to sell San Francisco minus 6.5 tickets, but they also don't want to sell Minnesota plus 7 tickets. I think that's where we're at right now. So we'll start with injury reports. Obviously, the Vikings are going to be without Justin Jefferson. They're also going to be without starting guard Ezra Cleveland. But other than that, this Minnesota team is healthy. They have one linebacker on defense who's listed as questionable, but he participated in 3 straight light practices, so I'm assuming he's going to play. Vikes are in decent shape, injury-wise, with the exception of Justin Jefferson. The 49ers offense, however, not so much. Deebo Samuel has been ruled out. Star left guard Trent Williams is listed as doubtful. He probably isn't playing. And Christian McCaffrey might not even play. I mean, Christian McCaffrey did finally participate in a light practice on Saturday, and he says that he feels great. So I assume he's going to play, but I would imagine they have him on some kind of snap count, just judging by his history with injuries. I doubt they're going to rush him back out there and give him 30 touches. So for this video's sake, I'm going to assume that Christian McCaffrey is going to be active, but will be limited. I think that's a safe assumption. Defensively, 49ers are in much better shape. They have Dre Greenlaw listed as questionable. He missed the game last week against Cleveland, and they missed him too because Cleveland ran the ball on him. But he did participate in a couple light practices, so I think he's going to play. So let's break these two teams down on the field. Brock Purdy is actually a human being. Finally had a bad game. Basically the first bad game of his entire career last week. 12 of 27, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 55.3 passer rating. Let's be fair to Brock Purdy, though. I mean, the weather was terrible for throwing the ball, serious wind, and it's the Browns defense in Cleveland. I mean, it doesn't really get much tougher than that as far as a spot for a quarterback. There was also an added element that the defensive coordinator for Cleveland, Jim Schwartz, he owns Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan has lost 9 straight games against Schwartz. And he was held to 20 or fewer points in all of them, averaging just 14.8 points per game. I wish I had that stat last week, but Prop Beaver just emailed me that today. So it was basically the point is it was a terrible spot for Brock Purdy last week. The San Francisco offense as a whole was a shell of itself. It's crazy because when everyone talks about the 49ers, right? Talk about the elite defense, talk about Christian McCaffrey, but actually the best part of this 49ers team analytically is the passing attack. 49ers pass offense on the season, even after last week's bad game, they're still first in passing DVOA, second in passer rating, second in yards per pass attempt. And the good news for Brock Purdy is he gets to follow up that loss against the Vikings defense that runs a ton of zone. 73.9% of the Vikings defensive snaps this year have been in zone coverage. That's first in the NFL. Vikings run more zone coverage than anybody. Brock Purdy has absolutely destroyed zone coverage this year. He's second in passer rating and second in net yards per attempt. So that's a solid matchup for Brock Purdy on paper. But the Vikings do have Brian Flores calling the defensive plays, which means they're going to blitz. They've blitzed on 58.6% of their snaps, according to FTN, which is first in the NFL as well. So they blitz more than any other team in the I almost said the NBA, in the NFL. Brock Purdy's been solid against the blitz, but he's been much better against the standard 4 pass rushers. When not blitzed, Brock Purdy's first in passer rating, 5th in adjusted completion percentage, 2nd in yards per attempt. When he is blitzed, 9th, 14th, and 15th. So he hasn't been terrible, but he's much better against the standard 4 pass rushers. So that's an angle for you if you like Minnesota. All that Brian Flores blitzing, slow Brock Purdy down, especially without Trent Williams on the field helping to keep him clean. I don't know if it's enough to take the 7 points, but it's a start. Here's another angle for Minnesota. Deebo Samuel is out, like I said, and you might look at the 49ers offense and be like, who cares? They got a ton of weapons. But actually, since 2022, the 49ers have run 896 plays with Deebo on the field and 524 plays without him on the field. So it's a decent sample size. With Deebo on the field, San Francisco averages 6.2 yards per play, 5 yards per carry, and a 47% offensive play success rate. That's near the top of the NFL. In the 524 plays without Deebo Samuel on the field, just 5 yards per play, 4.2 yards per carry, and just a 41.1% success rate, which is below the NFL average. So you might see all those weapons on the 49ers and be like, they'll be fine without Deebo Samuel, but actually, numbers don't lie. They've been significantly worse as an offense without Deebo Samuel on the field. Again, is that enough to take Minnesota plus 7? Maybe not, but we're getting closer. Now, the Vikings' pass defense hasn't been great this season, but they're definitely trending in the right direction. 15th in DVOA, 18th in yards per attempt. So not terrible. I mean, pretty middle of the pack. Pass rush really seems to be coming to life, which is huge, specifically Daniel Hunter. Vikings were really struggling to generate pressure on the quarterback earlier in the season, but the last 2 games have been definitely improved. In fact, the Vikings recorded 5 sacks last week against the Bears, and they're now up to 6th in adjusted sack rate and 18th in pressure rate. Daniel Hunter now leads the NFL with 8 sacks and 11 tackles for loss, and without Trent Williams on the field, this man could be a serious problem for San Francisco offensively. So like I said, Vikes defense against the pass is trending in the right direction. As far as the run game goes for the 49ers, like I said, I'm going to assume McCaffrey plays in as limited. And obviously, we know the 49ers rushing attack's been great this year. 3rd in DVOA, 4th in adjusted line yards, 7th in yards per carry. But you know what? Just like the pass defense, Vikings run defense hasn't been as bad as you think. On the season, they're 16th in DVOA, 15th in adjusted line yards, and 9th in yards per carry. They're only allowing 3.7 yards per carry as a team. That being said, you really have to take a closer look at the Vikings game logs because they were able to shut down the run against the 4 opponents with weaker rushing attacks. But the 2 times they saw top 10 rushing attacks, Chicago and Philly, they were run on both times. Not so much in Chicago. They were okay in Chicago, but the Eagles really ran the ball well on them. I mean, that was a short week, Thursday Night Football on the road in Philly, so maybe we give them a little bit of a pass. Basically, the Vikings run defense is okay. That's the point I'm trying to make, is they're okay. So you got a decent run defense at home. If Christian McCaffrey's limited, there's no Trent Williams at left tackle, Jordan Mason and Eli Mitchell, I mean, they shouldn't be able to dominate the game. 49ers offense is definitely in a bit of a situation with these injuries. Now, on the other side of the ball, 49ers pass rush hasn't been recording the sacks. They're just 25th in adjusted sack rate, but the pressure's been there. They're 3rd in pressure rate, which means the sacks are eventually going to come. Teams are really struggling to throw the ball against San Francisco as expected. 2nd in pass defense DVOA, 1st in opponent's passer rating, 3rd in yards per pass attempt allowed. You want to know who's been surprisingly good under pressure this year? Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, when pressured, is 2nd in passer rating, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 15th in yards per attempt, just 28th in big-time throw percentage. So basically, that tells us Kirk Cousins is making smart decisions when pressured. He's not doing Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson stuff where he's extending the play, making the big throw downfield, but he's feeling the pressure, getting the ball out to a check down, and when you're getting a full 7 points at home, sometimes that's all you need the quarterback to do. Just don't mess it up. Minnesota throwing the ball has been just okay this year. 16th in DVOA, 6th in passer rating, 14th in yards per attempt. Obviously, most of those numbers come with Justin Jefferson on the field. In Kirk Cousins' first game without Justin Jefferson last week, he was just 21 of 31, 181 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, and 93.6 passer rating. So not great, not terrible, but he didn't make the mistakes, which I suppose is a positive. I don't expect Kirk Cousins to have a huge game throwing the ball against the 49ers defense, but all we need him to do is just not turn the ball over, because I do have a positive for the Vikings offense. 49ers have weirdly struggled to stop the run this year. They're just 22nd in run defense DVOA, 19th in adjusted line yards, 15th in yards per carry. Ready for this? San Francisco's defense is just 23rd in EPA per play against the run. They finished in the top 2 each of the last 2 seasons. They're 25th in EPA per play versus design runs. Cleveland ripped off 160 rushing yards on 34 design runs last week, 4.7 yards per carry. Now, the Vikings situation at running back has been a problem. I mean, because they're 2nd in adjusted line yards. The offensive line is creating space, but just 24th in rushing DVOA, 20th in yards per carry. So that's on Madison. But remember, he started off the season terribly. Alex Madison did literally nothing in weeks 1 and 2. Since then, the Vikings have been much better running the ball. I mean, They really struggled against the Bears last week, but the 3 weeks before that, they were actually running the ball well. You'd think that the 49ers run defense would be just a nightmare for Alex Madison, but actually, there's going to be opportunities for him to make plays in this game if he's able to make them. No question, the numbers point towards Minnesota +7 as the play, without a doubt. But I'm going to finish the video off with some Kirk Cousins trends that may terrify you. Kirk Cousins is just 2-10 on Mondays in his career. Both wins came against the Chicago Bears. As a Viking, he is 2-4 on Mondays. Again, both wins against the Bears. And at home on Monday Night Football, Kirk Cousins is 0-5. Now, these are more just funny because we're not asking who's going to win the game. We're asking who's going to cover the point spread. But I thought I should include them in the video. Before we get to what I'm betting, I do have an underdog pick'em for the game. It's a 3-pick, so it pays out 6 times. Alex Madison, higher than 45.5 rush yards. Daniel Hunter, higher than a half sack. George Kittle, higher than 47.5 receiving yards. If you don't have an Underdog fantasy account, it's available in any state highlighted in this map. So if you're in one of these states, head over to Underdog Fantasy. You can go to the website, or you can download the app. When you make your account, make sure you use the promo code BET. BET. That'll get you a $100 deposit bonus match. So if you deposit $100, they will give you a free $100 to play with. So as you've heard, I got crushed in the NFL yesterday. So I completely get if you're not trusting my judgment right now, but I'm going to take the 7 with the Vikes. It's a full touchdown at home with a much healthier team. And in my opinion, it's the team that needs to win a lot more. And I get to fade 90% of the public. So give me Minnesota +7. If I had to bet the total, I'd probably take the under at 43.5. I don't know. I'm probably not going to bet that. I'm probably just going to take Minnesota +7. I'm going to get it in now before it all drops to 6.5. So let's go Vikes. If you want the top bets, parlays of the day, well, today will be a same game parlay for the Monday Night Football game, but also picks for all sports. Our NHL guys swept yesterday. It got no press. Nobody talked about it because obviously all the spotlight was on me losing. But if you want picks for all sports, head over to KyleKirms.com. There's also a link to join our Discord on there if you're interested in that. All right, let's finish off this terrible weekend on a positive note. Let's go Vikes. Cover this number for me. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.